Argentina just suffered the biggest upset in World Cup history. This was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. This, like all others, was not supposed to end with Lionel Messi's sagging shoulders, distant gaze, and empty blank stare. Argentina's primary goal upon arriving in Qatar was to ensure that Messi's final World Cup would be remembered for presenting on his legacy the beautiful golden glow that only this competition, this supreme victory, could. Instead, it now faces the serious possibility of being associated with one of the greatest upsets and darkest humiliations in World Cup history. Argentina's 2-1 defeat to Saudi Arabia was more than just a defeat. It was an absolute disgrace, an utter humiliation, and a disgrace that was broadcasted live on television worldwide in front of 88,000 spectators. Argentina's players appeared sucked dry by the end of the game, their cheeks worn and their eyes haunted as the ecstatic Saudi substitutes surged onto the field. Of course, no one on that green pitch was more devastated than Leo Messi, who stood mournfully in Qatar that afternoon. He's been wearing that look more than he'd like lately. It's become more familiar to a player of his level of talent than one might expect from a legend. Those agonizing losses to Roma, Liverpool, and Bayern Munich in his final years with Barcelona. The dreaded defeat as victory was snatched from the jaws of glory earlier this year with Paris Saint-Germain against Real Madrid. And after each of them, the same dejected spirit that he cut when the whistle rang at Lusail, the stadium that will host Messi's final World Cup next month, with hands on hips, head dropped, and eyes downcast as he slowly goes off the field. The nightmare of Argentina came true. Argentina itself, though, was what made a significant distinction. The nation has created a national squad that wasn't entangled in a convoluted web of neurosis and complexes for the first time in years. Argentina had developed a structure to provide an older Messi with the support he needed under Lionel Scaloni, the low-key coach who had first taken the position temporarily and become remarkably adept at it. They have played 35 games since 2019 and have never lost one. It had also ended a generation-long quest for a major trophy, winning the Copa America for the first time since 1993 in the most satisfying way imaginable by defeating Brazil in Brazil. The European champion had been destroyed. As a result, Italy, in a game marketed as the Finalissima. Argentina possessed the best player on the planet and probably the best player of all time in top form, as well as an exceptionally talented supporting cast and a sizable fan base. Doha's streets were crowded with banners, flags, and shirts. Of course, that has been true for at least 3 World Cups. The crew seemed more assured, self-assured, and even serene this time, which was the difference. The first half was dominated by Argentina. The entire teardown process took less than 5 minutes. Argentina took the lead after Leandro Paredes won a penalty, which Messi converted with little enthusiasm. A further 3 goals were disallowed for offsides, at least one by a very narrow margin, so that was the extent of its luck. But when the teams came inside for halftime, there didn't appear to be any cause for concern. Perhaps pessimism helped contribute to what happened next, as Argentina dozed off after Saleh Al-Shahiri clipped home an equalizer. Salem Al-Dosari danced through 3 challenges and curled a shot, its own curve picture perfect, beyond Emiliano Martinez's clawing reach. Saudi Arabia's fans roared as they were denied entry by the thousands from the border 90 miles away. Argentina stood shell-shocked, the ghost of their 1990 defeat to Cameroon on their shoulder. The players, too, appeared unable to respond. This is not a team that has had much experience in recent years recovering from setbacks. The thousands of Saudi Arabian supporters who had been bussed in from the border 90 miles away screamed. Argentine supporters stood stunned with the memory of their 1990 Milan defeat to Cameroon. This team hasn't had much recent experience rebounding from setbacks, thus the players also appeared unable to react. Argentina's players were anxious, frustrated, dispirited, and hurried rather than remaining calm and gradually applying pressure to their fatigued opponents. Messi and his teammates made a serious mistake by crossing the fine line between urgent and panicked. Argentina failed to create a single chance for some of the world's best forwards in half an hour. Even Messi, who appears to be made of pure, uncut poise, appeared afflicted, rushing his passes, missing his beats, and fading from the game as the clock ticked rather than bending it to his will. Perhaps he has endured enough of these humiliations to know when another is on the way. Maybe he is in tune with fate's cruelty. Of course, only some things are lost. Argentina still has 2 games to avoid disaster and save its face. Beat Mexico and Poland in the remaining 2 group games, and the loss to Saudi Arabia will appear to have had no long-term consequences. After all, defeating Cameroon didn't stop Diego Maradona from leading Argentina to the World Cup final in 1990. Messi's competition is far from over. Everything could be a misunderstanding. It didn't feel that way at the time, as Messi and his teammates knelt in the middle of the field, as if for safety, security, and warmth. In the white heat of Lusail's afternoon sun, something appeared to have come undone. This was supposed to be another era. Everything suddenly felt the same for Messi and Argentina. This loss left a sour taste in the mouths of the La Albicelestes. It's another afternoon for Lionel Messi and his teammates to figure out themselves in the dressing before the next match is going to be a war against Mexico. And when underdogs like Saudi Arabia pull up a stunt like that against Argentina, it usually gives other teams this kind of confidence that they can do it, Saudi Arabia did, and we can also defeat Argentina. It got dark quickly, and my heart got heavy after the full-time whistle was blown. The scoreline still wasn't making any sense to me. La Albiceleste had just lost to some bunch of Saudi Arabia farmers after going 36 games unbeaten, and the last time they lost was in 2019 to Brazil in the Copa America semifinal. Here are a few reasons why Argentina was humiliated by Saudi Arabia. The Qatari-Saudi feud has come to an end. Argentinians outmanned the 30,000 Saudis in the crowd, who almost always travel in more significant numbers than any other country. However, the ear-piercing din from behind the goal made this feel like a wild home game for most of the game. Those who crossed the border, including Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, could do so thanks to a resolution passed in January last year to end the ugliest of neighborly feuds between the two. Football is huge in Saudi Arabia, as evidenced by the country's long pursuit of Newcastle United. Bin Salman sees the sport as essential to his diversification strategy to wean the country off of its dwindling oil reserves. The Saudis' enthusiasm, many of whom were dressed in traditional robes, starkly contrasted with the largely tepid atmosphere for Qatar's opening match against Ecuador. Renard, the French coach, said the home-like atmosphere was crucial. "We need a lot more people to come over for the next games," he said. The heaviness of history. In some ways, this was a match in which Messi finally emulated Maradona. His generation had suffered a similarly humiliating defeat to Cameroon in 1990. The Saudi defeat is far worse, but a draw against Iceland and a loss to Nigeria in 2018 exposed the fragility, such as their desire to win the World Cup again. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia channeled the spirit of 1994, when their country beat Belgium and Morocco to reach the round of 16. Saudi Arabia recognized that an apparent talent mismatch could be used to its advantage, the sheer determination to win. As Yasser Al-Sharani took a knee to the head from Al-Awais, there were audible gasps throughout the stadium. As medics stretchered him away, his teammates looked concerned. It was a typical display of unity from a team putting everything on the line. Soon after the restart, Saleh Al-Shahiri and Salem Al-Dazari scored a quick double to put Renard's men ahead. However, the true heroes of the day were Mohamed Alawai's salmon-like leaps and the 4 all-action defenders in front of him. When Argentina turns its attention to avoiding a surprising group stage exit in the coming days, Saudi Arabia is celebrating a historic success, knowing that this might be Messi's final World Cup and the legend's final chance to win the most coveted international award. The Albiceleste entered the competition under additional pressure. To guarantee a spot in the knockout rounds, they may now require victories in each of their next 2 group matches against Mexico and Poland. Whatever happens for Saudi Arabia and Argentina moving forward, Tuesday's result will go down in World Cup history as one of the biggest surprises.